Welcome back, everybody, to Let's Play Metroid Prime for the Nintendo GameCube. It's Prime time! Last time on Let's Play Metroid Prime, we grabbed the Plasma Beam and grabbed a few other goodies in, Chozo Ruins. It was on the tip of my tongue, I swear. And today, before we actually head back to Phazon Mines, I actually want to grab a few more goodies before heading off, because we are in a position to clear out the rest of Phendrana drifts and get some in-game collectibles out of the way. And I figured, you know what, I'm already over here. Why the hell not? I mean, Phazon Mines isn't too far off, I'd say. And, I mean, what's stopping me, you know? Like, if I'm already over here, and I've already got a few Chozo Artifacts within my grasp, might as well go ahead and get that all done, right? In spite of what I said earlier, it's in terms of like how overpowered the plasma beam is, and how like sometimes it can become unfun using it a whole lot of the time, as opposed to using something like the ice beam, which is a lot more rewarding and fun to pull off. I won't lie and say that I'm kind of 50-50 with the plasma beam at points. And I kind of blame that on the rate of fire. Because let's be honest, during this and just mowing through a field of enemies without having to worry about charging your beam to get the best results, it can definitely feel satisfying at times. I won't deny that. It's a very 50-50 thing, don't judge me. Blah. So, anyway, I'm actually gonna head back underwater here. And there's a few places we want to check out now that we have the plasma beam. And I guess it kind of makes sense to some degree if they did consider the fact that the plasma beam is a little bit overpowered. I mean, we really don't have many bosses left as far as the rest of the game is concerned. And I do recall that Prime 2 did something of this effect as well, because the Annihilator beam, which was the last beam you got in that game, was one of the very last upgrades you got in that game, but it also had a very unforgiving, like, ammo beam consumption, like, limitation, you know, falling behind it. So, like, it had that going against it to some degree. Whereas in here, there's like really no retaliation over using this beam in any capacity. But hey, at least they placed it towards the end of the game, I guess. Because like, Metroid Prime 1, while its difficulty curve isn't perfect, and I do think that a lot of the bosses require too much sitting around doing nothing to get anything accomplished. At the same end of the token, I am glad that Metroid Prime took a much more challenging approach with its combat. Because, like, for the most part, unless you're playing, like, Fusion or Zero Mission in hard mode, those games are pretty relatively easy, so to speak. And they're not very difficult to play through once you have, like, a pretty solid grasp of where everything is. Like, the challenge from Metroid mostly comes from exploration, you know? And the combat is more or less an afterthought. That's why you have so many passive enemies in most of the Metroid games, because, like, they're just there to kind of hinder your progress. And your goal is to explore, and enemies are pretty secondary for the most part, you know? So, Metroid Prime, you know, the Metroid Prime trilogy as a whole, you know, comes around, and it delivers a pretty decent, like, balancing, like, I'm trying to think, what's the word here? It balances things out pretty well, especially in regards to the fact that you're constantly getting expansions, because Metroid Primes 1 and 2 are the only games I can think of in the entire saga where, in spite of how many expansions you have, the game is still progressively getting harder, and you still need to be playing catch-up regardless. Whereas in, like, say, you know, the 2D Metroid games, they feel more like a bonus and just make the game significantly easier. Like, I can do a minimalist run of Metroid Fusion without too much of an issue. But with Metroid Primes 1 and 2, I definitely feel like the expansions feel more like a proper leveling up system as opposed to just being extraneous and just making the game much easier, you know? And then Prime 3 comes along and just ruins all of that with its bullshit hyper mode, which is executed in the worst way imaginable, but we'll be getting to that once we get to Prime 3, because there's a reason Prime 3 is my least favorite of the three. I don't hate Prime 3. I will mostly have a pretty generous / positive, you know, overview of Prime 3 once we get to it, but again, I do have to stress, there's a reason why it's my least favorite, and I have constructive feedback as to why once we get to that point. But yeah, for now, I would definitely say for what my money's worth, Prime 1 and 2, if you're not super duper into the exploration, like, part of the game, I think the combat sells the game pretty decently, and Prime 2 does an even better job in that regard. Prime 2 definitely incentivizes the fact that you need to really watch your resources or you get your ass kicked. Metroid Prime 2 is definitely not for the faint of heart, and I wouldn't recommend it to any newcomer, but for the experienced players, you will get plenty out of Prime 2. And I feel like, you know, this can definitely be applied to Prime 1 to some fair degree as well. It definitely feels like it caters more towards the experienced crowd. And you know what? They didn't have to make it much easier, because at the same time of this game's release, you had Metroid Fusion that came out, and that game was way more beginner friendly as well. And I really wish, you know, Nintendo would do something like that more often, where instead of trying to force too much of like the same demographic onto one game, they split the demographic needs into two separate games. Like, Prime 1 kicked my ass. I'm not even gonna really deny that. This game kicked my ass left and right when I first played it. And you know what? Fusion kind of did too. Like, Fusion definitely had what I'd consider to be the toughest bosses of the entire 2D Metroid saga, you know? But, the point is that, like, when you consider its length and, like, its depth of puzzle solving, they're not quite as, like, heavy as the extent of what you'll find in, like, Super Metroid, let alone, you know, Primes 1 and 2, you know? And, again, I just wish Nintendo would do something like that again. They did something similar with the Oracle games back in the day, where they made these two separate games at the same time, but they had different things going for different players. You had one that was designed more for the puzzle-solving crowd, and then one for the more action-oriented crowd. And I'd say it fit two sides of the same bill pretty damn effectively. And okay, so this is the room. Alright, so here we need to find a stalactite we can melt, so we can send it all the way down there and melt that water. Doesn't look like it at first, but we can't really do much about that. And we need to use our plasma beam here to find such a thing. Oh god. Where is it at? This is gonna be a tough nut to crack, that's for sure. Which is all the more baffling to me that, like, for whatever reason, like, cause like even Metroid Prime 2 can be argued that they kind of went with the same approach as well. You had a GBA game that came out within the same year as Metroid Prime 2. right? I mean, it wasn't released at the same time, mind you. It's gotta be it. Ah. But, like, they definitely had both sides of the crowd in mind when designing those two games to make sure not one side was left out. And even Zero Mission had its own qualities that fit the hardcore crowd as well. And if you remember Zero Mission's design, it very closely follows Super Metroid more than Fusion did, and it added a lot of intentional sequence breaks to where it incentivized the player to not only try to do minimalist runs, which you actually had endings that accounted for said fact, but you also had like hidden developer routes, so to speak, where if you really put your eye out and look for these things, like you can tell like the game was designed to be, you know, played through in the most freeform-esque way possible. And that's pretty awesome, and it's one of the main reasons why I would actually consider Zero Mission to be one of the absolute best, you know, Metroidvanias of its type. And it's my favorite 2D Metroid game too, and we're going to be doing that right after this playthrough, so I'm super pumped up for that. But yeah, you can. But yeah, what I'm trying to say here is that like you can definitely have games that have a little bit of everything that appeal to like both sides, but you can also have parts of the game where they can also appeal more strongly to the opposing side. You know, like I would say at the end of the day, like Zero Mission is more geared towards the casual crowd, but as a whole, it can appeal to both just fine, and I still find myself replaying that game plenty of times, even to this day. So, yeah, it looks like I didn't even need my plasma beam to melt that. What the hell? Sweet! So much to go out and find. Goodness. Okay, so we're gonna head over to the research core next because, I hate to say it, but we gotta head over to the research lab of Phendrana Drifts just one more time. This time it's just for one little thing, but it sucks that we have to go through like half of it to even reach the destination in the first place. It's dumb. This is probably my least favorite artifact to go after, if for that reason alone. Yeah. Because it's just so terribly out of the way. But I guess I can't say it's all bad. And in fact, actually, now that I think about it, I think it would be better if we took the top route. Because there's actually something we can take up here with our newly acquired Spider Ball and get ourselves another expansion. How about that? Ah! Okay, that messed up my jumps. Thank God I caught myself at the last minute. I feel like this whole part has been me just, like, going in circles with, like, explaining why certain things work the way they do, and I like it, and it's just... Oh, man, when I'm caught up in the moment, sometimes I just get in my head a little too much sometimes, and I lose track of, like, all of the points I'm trying to make, and I apologize if I feel like I'm hitting that stride, and it can definitely feel like circular reasoning at points. Actually, wait a fucking second. Did we... Oh, no. No, we did. Okay. I was about to say. Actually, wait a second. Oh no! I missed it. I missed it. I'm so dumb. Crap. I thought I got everything over there. Fuck me. I'll be right back. Alright, that's right. I gotta use the X-ray scope. I just now remembered because I'm stupid and retarded. And everything of that accord. Okay. Just seems funny to me that they would actually hide like two separate things on the top of here. Ugh. Yeah, that's what I thought. Get out of here. Jesus Christ. Ugh. God, I hate bullcrap like that. But yeah, in case you couldn't tell, like the X-ray scope is very much similar to the one in Super Metroid, where you don't necessarily have to scan everything to figure out if there's something behind, like a pile of rubble or what have you. You can kind of like guesstimate that just from taking out the X-ray scope and doing a little general scan of the area, you know. So, I'm gonna meet you guys back over in the quarantine cave. I'll see you guys then. Okay, we are here in the quarantine cave, back where we fought Thardus, and we just need to use our grapple beam to come over here. And that is all she wrote. Yeah, just a lone little missile expansion, nothing crazy. Hey everybody, so I had to split this video into two parts because lo and behold, in case you didn't notice by the halfway point of this video, my video footage just ended up getting corrupted, and while that didn't necessarily hurt too much of my playthrough, it did end up cutting out a big part where I showed off where the next Chozo artifact was. So unfortunately, to save time and to not have me do the entire goddamn video over again, I'm just gonna go ahead and explain it now in post. So, you want to come over to the control tower here. And over here, you will find a tower that's got some explosives loaded by it. You want to melt this Windows ice with the plasma beam, and it's the main thing that kept us from doing it earlier. So you melt and explode the explosives hanging out by the side of the tower, and you'll knock it over, right? So, once you do that, I would like for you to get out of my way, please. 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 Thank you. This thing will fall over, and it'll create a hole that you can jump into in morph ball form and explore. Down here is where you find the next Chozo artifact, which, specifically speaking, is the Chozo artifact of Elder. They intended for us to get this third for whatever reason. I don't really know why, but whatever. So, now that I've gotten that addressed, we're going to be heading back over to... Man, we got to backtrack through all of this again, don't we? Well, at least I had, like, 10 minutes worth of backtracking cut out, I suppose. I guess you can thank the video corruption for that, but at the same time, I really wish something like that wouldn't have happened, because I'm worried something like that will happen in the near future again, and that would suck. Oh boy. So, we're going to be heading over to the Chapel of the well, not the Chapel of the Elders. We're going to be heading to the Chozo Ice Temple, and we're going to be checking out the Ice Ruins. Each of those have expansions waiting for us, and we're going to be meeting you guys back over there. Okay, so here we are. And that's the wrong screen. The wrong screen. Ha! Because I have a tendency to mispronounce my R's for whatever reason, and I don't know why. So, here we are. Ice Ruins West. And we want to check out this part right here. And here we have another Power Bomb expansion. Oh my gosh. I'm trembling. But yeah, there we are. I'm glad it wasn't in the eastern side because that would require us to backtrack a little bit more. But you know what? We might just check it out anyway. Because why not? We're headed within that direction, I suppose. So yeah, not much left to do in Phendrana. Like, we're pretty much coming to the end of it, really. And after that, all that's left, really, is to clear out Phazon Mines and get the last upgrade in the game. We're hitting endgame, folks. I don't know what to feel about that, but, or how to feel about that, rather, but, at the same time, I guess it's been something that's to be expected at this point. Did I just... That's weird. I forgot her footsteps caused you to tremble a little bit. Could you not? Could you not? Okay, I don't think there really is anything worth noting here. Wait a second. Wait a second. I spoke too soon. Oh my god! So it turns out we had to check out both of them. Ah! I'm glad I came over here. Holy crap, because I wouldn't have otherwise. Actually, you know what? Get out of my sight, please. Please, kindly. You know what? We don't even have to worry about her little barrier thing. We can just cheese our way through this. And correction, we have like 2 more upgrades to go, but again, one of them isn't totally necessary. Please get out of my sight. Thank you very much. Okay. Yeah, I was gonna say, that trembling was kind of getting on my nerves because I couldn't even so much as stay on the ground without her bouncing me all over the place. Yeah, because I see like a little alcove there. Is that really meant for anything in particular? Or not? Shut the front door, it is. Yes! Oh, man. Thank God I'm being so thorough right now. I was about to walk right the fuck out of here without it. Oh, my God. God bless the map. I was like, I knew there had to have been a reason for that, like, narrow path there. Just hanging out at the edge of that room there. Alright. So, ow. Ow. God damn. That's what you call incineration. So, what do we got here? Okay. So, one of these pillars houses a missile. And we need a plasma beam to even get into it. I think it's this one right here. Here we are. Nice. Man, we are killing it with the missiles, man. It's just as I had suspected, you know? Like, all of a sudden, once you hit endgame, it's like they just throw the kitchen sink at you in terms of missile pickups and all. I guess they didn't really intend to, like, have this many missiles, you know, on the offset of things, but, like, I guess they were like, well, every other Metroid game has 250 missiles. I guess we might as well keep that tradition upheld, I suppose. But then they just ended up hiding all of the missiles in the end game, and, well, that speaks for itself. Yeah, holy crap, they're just throwing them at us at this point. Oh, man. I was gonna say, please dissipate. Okay, here we are. My footage hasn't corrupted yet. Thank goodness. Alright, so for this part here, all we simply need to do is melt that with our plasma beam. Our plasma beam just grants us access to every single goddamn location here on Town on 4 here now, doesn't it? It really is a progression barrier tool that they had to put at the end of the game just for the sake of, like, putting these things out here to incentivize the fact that, yes, you have to do this at the very end of the game. But yeah, that leaves us with just 3 more Chozo artifacts to collect, and if memory serves correctly, the last of them are hidden within Phazon Mines, so we won't have to go back too far. So, our endgame collectathon just got trimmed up a fair bit because we decided to go ahead and take care of a lot of it pretty early on, which is awesome.